Assalamu alaikum. It's good to see each of you this morning. Of course, before we begin today's program, we ask wherever you are to please stand for prayer. Surely I have turned myself to thee, O Allah, trying to be upright, to him who originated the heavens and the earth, and I am not of the polytheist. Surely my prayer and my sacrifice, my life and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has he, in this I am commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the King, there is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am thy servant. I have been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So grant me protection against all of my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me unto the best of morals, for none guides unto the best of morals but thee. And turn away from me the evil and indecent morals, for none can turn away from me the evil and indecent morals but thee. O Allah, bless Muhammad, and bless the true followers of Muhammad, as thou didst bless Abraham and the true followers of Abraham, for surely thou art praised and magnified. O Allah, make Muhammad successful, and make the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou didst make Abraham and the true followers of Abraham successful, for surely thou art praised and magnified. Ameen. Please be seated, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet each of you, my dear brothers and sisters, and those viewing via webcast all over the earth. I greet you humbly and happily in the greeting words of peace. We say it in our original tongue, our original language of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. How you doing this morning? All praise is due to Allah. It's good to see each and every one of you. We thank Allah for the gift of life. We thank Allah for allowing us to wake up this morning. Dear brothers and sisters, we just simply want to not only thank you for being here, but welcome you to, or on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam this beautiful Sunday morning. We want to let you know that we are broadcasting live from Mas Mariam, which is our national center, and this beautiful house of worship is named after the beloved mother of Jesus, Mariam, Mary. And this beautiful house of worship and the work that we do from this house, by Allah's permission, is dedicated to the work and the mission of the Mahdi and Messiah, which is the establishment of the kingdom of God on earth. I'm going to say that again. The kingdom of God on earth, not up there, but really the up there is right here if you got the right idea. And we want to share that powerful truth today, that invincible truth today that makes the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stand with such strength and courage in the barrage of this attack that we are experiencing right now. We want to share that truth with you today. Y'all all right this morning? All praise is due to Allah. Brothers and sisters, although this beautiful house is made of stone and brick, and oftentimes we call it the house of God, but I can tell you right now, I've checked behind these curtains before, God is not sitting back there. I know some of you are like, for real? No, for real. No. The scriptures teach us that God does not dwell in houses made of stone and brick, but he does dwell in his own handiwork. Now, if you just look around the room at the person next to you, that is the handiwork of God. Therefore, God is dwelling right up in you. Now, you may say, well, brother, I don't see myself as a God. Well, that's why we want you to stick around just for a little while today. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that whenever you look at the black man, you are looking at God. We can't see that because there's a man that has to teach us. There's a truth that we have to hear to remove the scales from our eyes so that we can correct our vision. So when you look in the mirror, you don't see a Negro or a nigger. You don't see a colored boy. You don't see the ex-gangster or the ex-pimp. You see who you really are, which is a reflection of Almighty God Allah. That is from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah. So no, we want to share a divine truth with you this morning. The life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Not to put God in you and me, but to just brush away the dirt and the mud being under this wicked world and civilization has put on us. You didn't do it to yourself. It's not our fault. But a teaching that will pull God up out of each and every one of us. Brothers and sisters, we are honored to share the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, this morning, for those who are new, those who are viewing via webcast, wherever you are, we are tremendously grateful for each and every one of you and all of those who are out on social media that are standing with this beautiful, beautiful man among us. We thank you for having the courage to stand with such a man. I just have to bear witness before we bring up our first presenter. I have to bear witness as one of his students. I have to bear witness as a young man in Islam. At 42, I'm still young. And the reason why I feel and am still young is a bearing of witness to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave to me. That man saved my life. I would not have a word of value to speak to anybody if it was not for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'd be a blind Negro out in the streets, still clubbing it up, drinking it up, and doing every kind of foolishness if it wasn't for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I would not have the deep honor to serve at Muhammad University of Islam as the interim director if it was not for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I would not be married to this beautiful MGT if it was not for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. She would not have given birth to my beautiful daughter, who's a junior MGT, if it was not for the, I can go on and on, to bear witness. So it's my honor in this time to stand with the man that has breathed life into me. All praise is due to Allah. It's an honor to be a registered member in the Nation of Islam. So I know I can't stay up here and go down my whole list, but guess what? There's some other ones coming behind me that want to bear witness too as we stand with our beloved minister, a good man. Man, we are in a very serious day, but you better choose the right side or you will not be a winner. You will be a loser. I thank Allah for blessing me with the opportunity to stand and have life this morning, and I just thank Allah for his beautiful gift to humanity in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I'm done with my bearing witness, brothers and sisters, but I'm just so happy and honored to be alive in this time where many dream to stand in this hour with the Jesus. I know, get quiet on that one. To stand in this hour with that man. And I have to say, I went to seminary school because I was in love with Jesus. But little did I know that I'd leave seminary school and actually meet Jesus. All praise is due to Allah. Little did I know. Little did I know. I thank Allah for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So with that being said, I'd like to bring another witness bearer before you. Please welcome another student in the ministry class, Brother Tariq Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I'd like to greet you all with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. I want to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his National Assistant, Student Minister Ishmael Muhammad, for allowing me this privilege just to bear witness to what the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has done for me. And the more I grow and develop in my young life, I become more grateful each and every day, and I strive to run away from ingratitude. For the Holy Quran speaks a lot about ingratitude. It says, quote, that it is He, Allah God, who created you for your facilities of hearing and sight and feeling and understanding, and little thanks it is that we give. Ingratitude is a discreditable lack of gratitude. It is ungratefulness and a lack of appreciation. What is the root of ingratitude, we can ask? And what is the root of gratitude? And what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is going to answer these questions. How does God look at us when we act in an ingratitude way, when we act ungrateful? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, and he's such a magnificent teacher because he said it in such short language, but it has so many volumes on it. He said that God hates ingratitude. Did you hear me? God hates ingratitude. He said that the root of gratitude is the humbleness of a heart to be able to appreciate every little thing that is done to advance us in growth and development, or to move us toward a goal or suffice us for what we need. And then he says that the root of ingratitude is the arrogance that makes you think you deserve what you got. And so when you do this, you're never able to quite see things as they should. Personal testimony. A couple weeks ago, we had our Savior's Day convention here in Chicago. I drove about 7 hours up from my school. And the moment I got home and got freshened up to go to the convention, my tire got flat. And I was just so angry because I was at that period in life where all things was going wrong at the same time. And this was just like the thing that just ticked me off. So I called my pops, or my biological father, and I was just tripping. And I was just like, man, why me? You feel me? And he was just like, son, what you think of as a misfortune or a wrong is only based on your perception of what wrong or a misfortune is. In other words, you could think it's a misfortune, but it's really a blessing in disguise. It could have been worse, he said. He said you could have been on the interstate driving 80 miles per hour and your tire could have went flat and you could have ran into an 18-wheeler. So in saying that, man, I had to reflect and just be thankful for just that little thing that he said. And it helped me with all of the other things that was going on in my life. So I want to close by just saying how all praise is due to Allah. So I just want to close by saying how happy I am to be in the Nation of Islam and just to be a Muslim, because the first words we utter outside of our mouths when we receive a blessing, or even if it's a perceived misfortune, we say all praise is due to Allah. And we should really cherish every moment that we have in our lives. We should really cherish the fact that we can breathe clean air, that we have good functioning organs, that we can walk, that we can see, that we can hear, that we can talk, that we should be thankful for this moment now that we're in Mosque Miriam, which is dedicated to the retraining and the re-education for the black man and woman of America. We should cherish the fact that we are blessed, and we have been blessed today with the opportunity to hear the life-giving and the life-saving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we want to stand in this hour that the enemies attack our beloved minister, to show our love and support and gratitude by standing with him, for he has stood and continues to stand and gives his life for us every single breathing day. And let us be thankful to Allah that we have a man that doesn't have one. Now, I said one sold out bone, vein, vessel, or artery or cell in his body. We have a faithful servant. We have a faithful teacher, a faithful warner, a faithful defender, and a faithful brother and friend. So I'm thankful to him. I'm thankful to Allah, and I'm excited to hear what Dr. Wesley Muhammad has to say today on, what's his subject? On who has the courage to follow Farrakhan. Thank you all for allowing me these brief moments as I greet you in peace of Assalamu Alaikum. And please help me bring up another student in the ministry class, Sister Kenya Muhammad, with a round of applause.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you all in the greeting words of peace and paradise. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu Alaikum. I have to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, of course, and his assistant minister, Brother Ishmael Muhammad, for allowing me and us this opportunity to speak today. It's amazing to me, brothers and sisters, to think about how people from over 2 2,000 years ago. Those from the scriptures are still talked about in 2018 as if they were still alive. And it's because of the impact that they had on society and on the minds of the people at that time. So Jesus from 2,000 years ago, Moses, Prophet Muhammad, Jacob, Aaron, and all of the prophets, peace be upon them, still live today. They may be gone physically, but they're still alive in the book, and they're still alive in me and you if we allow them into our hearts. So the Holy Quran teaches that Jesus was a sign, right? So if that's the case, then we should be found studying his life to be used as an example for us. And if we look closely enough, brothers and sisters, if we look through the right lens, we will see many similarities between the Jesus of that time with men whose work and story is parallel, men whose miracles are identical, and men whose enemies are the same as they were then in today's time. So Jesus, as powerful as Jesus was, as divinely guided as he was, and as many miracles as he performed, he was hated by some without a cause. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said they hated Jesus. Why? Because he told the truth. Jesus was ridiculed, falsely charged, lied on, evil spoken of, and called a hater and a bigot. Now, we can stop right there, because there is a man in our midst today who speaks so much truth, who stands up for freedom, justice, and equality so firmly that he is absolutely hated for it. So could it be that Jesus of 2,000 years ago was a sign of this man and his work? All praise is due to Allah. Because of the enemies of God, because of the enemies' hatred of God and the truth, Jesus was persecuted. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when he was talking about Jesus' persecution, he said, then of course there was a trial. And listen to this. He said he, talking about Jesus, would not even speak in his own defense because it was not his trial. He said it was the trial of all of those whom he had taught, among whom he had worked, and among whom he had done so many wonderful and miraculous things. He went on to say, now they were called upon to be a witness for him. So at his crucifixion, none of them, according to scriptures, none of them were present except for John and these women. He said the 6 women and the 1 man represented an untold number that were growing into belief in him, but were not present. Now, just with this one aspect of the prophet's life, it is clear that there is a man who is fulfilling that part of the scripture today. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is absolutely walking in the footsteps of Jesus. All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. That's right. So when you look at the teachings that Jesus brought to the people, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has delivered a clear message of the teachings of his father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is that truth that will set the people free. When you look at the miracles that Jesus performed, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the one who is cleaning up the drug addicts, the prostitute, the arrogant, the unhumble, and is wiping our eyes of the filth of this world. All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. And when you look at the enemies that Jesus faced, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is going head on against the most powerful and wicked rulers of this day. But just as Jesus said, he and his Father are one, when you see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you are looking at the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in him, with him, and backing him in this day. All praise is due to Allah. So in closing, brothers and sisters, when we hear people spread lies about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when we see those who are working hard to throw dirt on his name, if we are students of the scriptures, we shouldn't be surprised because this was already written. In the Bible, Revelations chapter 12, verse 16, it reads, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of its mouth. Now, we are taught that the prophets are often styled as women in the scriptures, so the woman refers to the servant of God and specifically the Messiah. And the flood, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches, is the propaganda that was being spread about him. However, the earth, which is the people who are with him, defended him and swallowed up the flood. So, just as there were women around Jesus during the persecution, there are sisters who are modest, elegant, dainty, but soldiers who are willing to and have been standing with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to combat the lies that are being said about him. All praises due to Allah. So in closing, just a brief testimony. On March 6th, last week, the MGT, spearheaded by Sister Ebony Muhammad from Houston, took to the internet, since that's the main place that people want to spread those lies about him today, right? And we engaged in a Twitter chat to be bearers of witness to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and what he produces. So we defended his character and his heart. We defended the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We talked about what he has done for us in raising our level of consciousness to allow us to become the women that God intended for us to be. And we didn't allow our enemy to stop us from spreading the truth about such a beautiful man, because we are the ones who walk with him. We are the ones who see his character. All praises due to Allah. All praises due to Allah. So we posted pictures as well, being representations of the standard of God. So every time, brothers and sisters, you see this headpiece, know that we are women who have been cleaned up and trained by the head of the MGT and GCC class, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we absolutely love him. Thank you all for allowing me this brief moment to speak, and please stay standing and help me to welcome a beautiful brother who is doing an amazing job at spreading the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and helping his father, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, with his mission. So please help me to welcome the Student National Assistant Minister to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Brother Ishmael Muhammad. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the All-Wise, True, and Living God, the Ever-Living, the Self-Subsisting One, the Revealer of all truth, the Sender of all the prophets, Allah who intervened in the affairs of the people yesterday, who intervenes in the affairs of the people today, and will always be present among the people. We thank him for the prophets and the messengers that he raised from the generations before us: Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. Peace be upon these worthy servants of Almighty God Allah, who gave to us guidance, knowledge, and gave to us the will of God and the life that God intends for the human being to live. As a student and a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I could never thank Allah enough for his intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, for raising from the black man of America the promised Messiah. The whole world is looking for that one. They, of course, would not look among black people for the Messiah. After the enemy put the Jesus in their image and after their likeness, most of the people, including you, are looking for a pale-faced, blue-eyed, blonde-haired man. But the Messiah is not in the image and the likeness of your enemy. The Messiah is in the image and the likeness of yourself. And we are here to say he is a black man from America, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We thank Allah for him. We thank him for his extension of mercy, grace, and guidance to us in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet all of you, my dear brothers and sisters, with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. Before I bring on our guest speaker for this afternoon, I'd like to just share a few remarks. The truth of the Holy Quran, brothers and sisters, is for all seasons. And the Quran tells us that the Jews planned, and Allah planned. And Allah is indeed the best of planners. It is not a mere coincidence that in this current controversy surrounding our beloved minister, that we are entering the season observed by Christians called Easter. Easter is celebrated for the resurrection of Jesus after his crucifixion and death on the cross. Jesus was delivered into the hands of the Roman authority by the Jews, who hated him because he told the truth and called them devils. The satanic Jews of yesterday brought several false witnesses against Jesus. And the Jesus of yesterday was called a bigot. He was called a hater. He was called an anti-Semite. Now, nothing happens except by the permission of Allah. The satanic Jews today are scrambling to get every weak, spineless black politician, black leader, black activist, black thinker to come out and denounce their brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The Jews are cowards. You didn't hear me. They're cowards. They're cowards. They are cowards. Because they don't have an argument against what they have been charged by the prophets themselves. They don't want to be exposed. They stoned the prophets of yesterday, and they killed the prophets of yesterday. So today, because they are such cowards, they put weak-kneed, frightened Negro leaders in front to denounce their brother because they can't answer to the truth that Farrakhan presents. 2 days ago, the Executive Council of the Nation of Islam responded to those members of the Congressional Black Caucus who were pressured in making a public denunciation of Louis Farrakhan. And I want to read this open letter to Representatives Davis and Meeks and Lee. We are writing this open letter to express our deep disappointment with your published denouncement of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's Savior's Day 2018 message at the behest of the Republican Jewish Coalition, the Anti-Defamation League, and others who represent white supremacy and the continuing effort to destroy our community. It is abhorrent for you as elected officials to defend these people against the truth that uncovers the horror that has been done to black people, and to serve as their mouthpiece rather than allow them to defend themselves against their record and history, which proves that they are anti-black. In his open letter to black leadership dated July 19, 2010, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wrote to you in part, quote, "Whenever the light of truth has been shone on them, they reach for you to defend them against the truth that uncovers the horror that has been done to us. They have always been successful, pitting us against each other, this keeping them from facing the truth of their real relationship with us. As they call upon you to denounce me as an anti-Semite, and because of the favor you believe you owe them for what they have done to help make life comfortable for you, I'm asking you to stand down. Stand down." I'm going to pause on this. Those who have capitulated and bowed to the pressure of the enormous power of these Jews, they are not the real enemy. We have to shame them for not being stronger than what they could be and should be with respect to their brother. Because those that they bow to are not their brothers. But Farrakhan is their brother, Farrakhan is their friend, and Farrakhan has always come to the aid when they get in trouble with them. So never lose focus of who the real enemy is. The coward wants to pit brother against brother. Let me go on with this open letter and bring up our minister for today. Would you condemn me as an anti-Semite for exposing the research that shows them as being anti-black? If you become an apologist for them in this hour, you will be seen by the masses of our people as a modern-day Uncle Tom, who believes you owe more to them than to the masses of our suffering people. If you attack me at their insistence, you will be seen as an enemy of the rise of our people, as well as an enemy of your rise. The masses of our people are awakening and are increasingly angry at the reality of our condition. Most of you are afraid to face such a formidable and powerful enemy. So I implore you to stand to the side and let them come out and defend themselves and argue against the truth that I and we speak and write. End of the quote. Remember, it was the same satanic Jews of yesterday that conspired against Jesus and had him killed by the ruling authority of the Roman Empire. They hated Jesus because he told the truth. Jesus was ridiculed, falsely charged, lied on, evil spoken of, and called a hater and a bigot. He who does not learn the lessons of history is doomed to repeat them. Perhaps you can avoid the errors of the past and not let an innocent man be condemned. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Respectfully and sincerely submitted, the Executive Council of the Nation of Islam. Brothers and sisters, this is not Farrakhan's trial. I'm going to say that again. Sister Kenya said it. It's not his trial. It's your trial. It's my trial. It's our trial. The man has already spoken the word of truth and the word of God. So when they come against him, as you read it, or some of you know in the history of Jesus, he was silent. Because it was now time for the people who benefited from that truth to stand in defense of the man and the truth that that man has spoken. So this is not the minister's trial, nor is this just Minister Farrakhan exposing the enormous control of the Jews, of blacks, the American government, the banking industry, Hollywood and media. They have to answer to their own brothers, to the American presidents, and countless others who have all charged and condemned the wicked practices of the Jews the world over. It was the United States' first president, George Washington, who said, quote, "They work more effectively against us than the enemy's armies. They are 100 times more dangerous to our liberties and the great cause we are engaged in. It is much to be lamented that each state long ago has not hunted them down as pests to society and the greatest enemies we have to the happiness of America, the Jews." George Washington. Mel Gibson, you remember? He was called an anti-Semite, and when he was arrested on a DUI charge, the arresting officer, Mel Gibson, said, "Are you Jewish?" And then reportedly said, "You effing Jews. The Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world." Oliver Stone, the famous Hollywood director, he said that the Jewish have excessive control and domination of the media and our major lobby in the United States. They stay on top of every comment. They are a powerful lobby in Washington, and Israel has effed up the United States foreign policy for years. Recently, President Vladimir Putin said, maybe the Jews interfered in the American elections. Maybe the Jews control the world. Maybe the Jews slaughtered the Jews in Poland. He said that the Jews are those responsible for the world's evil. Now let's take it all the way to your own. Are you going to call the former Prime Minister of Israel an anti-Semite when he bears witness to everything that has been said about them and their control of America and the world? Ariel Sharon said, quote, "I want to tell you something very clear. Don't worry about American pressure on Israel. We, the Jewish people, control America, and the Americans know it." Now go condemn your own before you single out a black man in America that stands up and tells the truth. I close. The difference between all of these, and the list is long. I don't know what my brother is going to present, but the list is long of those who have come out and condemned the Jews for their control and their wicked practices. But why Farrakhan is number one on their list is because where they don't have the power to handle them, Farrakhan represents the power to not only handle them, but to destroy them once and for all. Jesus the Messiah represents the end of their world. That's why he's number one on the list. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, he said, quote, at his dinner table, in the presence of the minister, he said, quote, I say this is the one, referring to the minister, the world can't bother. I want to prove to Satan that my minister is a greater light to the world of man than you and your world's man, the whole of them. Farrakhan calls out Satan. That's the difference between everybody else that has singled the Jewish people out or the members of the Jewish community. Farrakhan calls them out and identifies them as Satan. Now, if a man is standing before you to call out Satan, that you and the world's people can be set free, then my brother comes before us to ask the question, who has the courage to stand with and follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Help me to receive my brother, our friend, acclaimed author, researcher, member of the Executive Council of the Nation of Islam, a soldier, student minister Wesley Muhammad.
In the most holy name of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, to whom all holy praises are forever due, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his living and exalted Christ, and I further bear witness that the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan is the messenger of God in our midst today, and the proof that Allah did not cease intervening in the affairs of the black man and woman in America in 1975. In their names, I greet you, family. Assalamu alaikum. Man, I got a lot to say today. I gotta beg your indulgence today, because I might just risk it all today. Not like Mello, though. Not like Mello, though. More like Farrakhan. Inshallah. Farrakhan risks it all every day of his life. In 1972 or 73, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad called his national representative, at that time, Minister Louis Farrakhan, to Chicago and told him, I don't want you to use the name devil anymore in referring to white people. He said, use the words Satan, the slave master's children, the enemy. Many of us, especially some of our nationalists and RBG family, have totally misunderstood this guidance from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, assuming that it represents a softening of our position on the white man. But nothing could be further from the truth. The name Satan is not less accusatory toward our enemy. It is more accusatory of our enemy, calling him out as Satan rather than just devil raises the ante. It doesn't lower it. How so? Well, just as there is a divine hierarchy among the gods, all gods not created equal. Say that again. All gods not created equal. There's what's called degrees of divinity or levels of godhood. And at the top of that divine hierarchy is Allah, the one Lord of all of the worlds. Likewise, all devils ain't created equal. There are degrees of devil. And at the top of that devil hierarchy is Satan himself, the Lord and Master of pure evil and rebellion. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, by switching our language from devil to Satan, is through the honorable brother minister Farrakhan lifting our eyes up the ladder from the devils in general to the king of the devils residing at the top of the ladder, Satan himself. You know how Satan secures his position at the top of the devil hierarchy? By means of anonymity or invisibility. As a 19th century French poet, Charles Baudelaire, said, "The finest trick of the devil is to persuade you that he does not exist." Now, like you, I'm sure, I prefer the remix from the movie The Usual Suspects. You remember The Usual Suspects? And Kevin Spacey's character said it better, in my opinion, when he said, "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convince the world he didn't exist." That's the trick. That's the trick. But it's the trick of Satan in particular. By hiding himself behind the wall of lower Gentile devils, Satan is able to control and manipulate the entire world. And the world is none the wiser about his identity or the danger that he represents to us all. And this, brothers and sisters, is why the Jews hate Farrakhan and hate him so intensely. They are so uncontrollably angry at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan right now because he is ending Satan's anonymity by exposing the Jews to be the Satan at the top of the devil hierarchy. That's deep. That's deep. All of the controversy that has erupted right before Savior's Day and which has intensified since Savior's Day. We really have not seen the likes of it, I imagine, since 1984, 1985, and the early 90s almost. This suggests to me that we are approaching what might be described as the fullness of time, when Allah and Satan both come out of their respective corners and hiding places and engage in the ultimate showdown, the war of the gods. And this is why we ask today the question, who has the courage to follow Farrakhan? But notice, I did not say who has the courage to stand with Farrakhan. Because while standing with Farrakhan today is necessary, it's not sufficient. The minister is never stationary. He's always moving, moving us further, moving us higher, moving us deeper. So if we just stand with him today, we will get left behind tomorrow. So we must follow Farrakhan. Go where he guides us to go. Stay from where he guides us to stay from. Follow Farrakhan where? Well, on this day, we better follow him into battle against the enemies of God and the enemies of the rise of God's people, the black man and woman in America. How dare we claim to be followers of Farrakhan, but sit on the sideline and watch him do battle with the perennial enemy of God. Perennial? Yes. Remember, the very name Israel is made in the Bible to mean he who fights against God. And Jews wear that name, Israel, as a badge of honor, beating their chests and proclaiming their pride in the fact that they fight against God and prevail. But they will not prevail in this day against the black God born from the dead, Elijah Muhammad. They will not prevail against the black God born from the dead. How do we follow Farrakhan, though? From every rostrum of every single mosque and study group in America, the satanic Jews should be catching holy hell, battered and beaten by the truth. We the Muslims, we are a peaceful people. We don't advocate nor practice violence on anyone who does not attempt violence against us or try to hinder us from practicing our religion. But we advocate and we practice assaulting the enemies of God with nothing more and nothing less than the truth of God and the truth of Satan. Yeah, the Jews are a profoundly powerful people. They are relatively few in number, but they have their hands on just about all of the levers of power. They have the power to end careers. They got the power to ruin the finances of nations. So it's easy for them to ruin the already miserable finances of our pitiful home economics. That's easy for them. We don't want to lose our job. We don't want to lose some position or privilege in this society. So we stay clear of the fight with the Jews. But how do we know who has the courage to follow Farrakhan? Only when Farrakhan's enemies are our enemies can we be considered a follower of Farrakhan. And who are the enemies of Farrakhan? Well, we don't have to speculate. The Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan at Savior's Day answered that clearly and explicitly. He said, the government is my enemy. The powerful Jews are my enemy. And scared to death Negroes are my enemy. But he didn't stop there. And weak Muslims and hypocrites are my enemy. Did he say that? Weak Muslims, though? Yeah. And what might a weak Muslim look like in an hour such as this. Maybe, just maybe, he or she might look like those Muslims who constantly coddle, blatantly envious, pathetically narcissistic, self-deluded, covert or closet haters of the minister like Malik Zulu Shabazz. Yeah, I said it. I'm tired. All of them will be called out today. Ain't much more diplomacy in this hour. Brother, you choose now, in the midst of the Jews' fury over Farrakhan, you choose now to reopen the Khalid wounds? Really? What is your motive, brother? You whining on Facebook because you say the Muslims never defended your man, Brother Khalid, against the Jews the way we are defending our father, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Hell no, we didn't. And we don't. And we don't. You want to know why? Because Brother Khalid made himself indefensible by doing that which simply cannot be defended out of his pain and his lack of understanding. He made the same error that Brother Malcolm made and attacked his teacher and his benefactor. Yes, he did. And the same spiritual disease that settled in the hearts of Brother Malcolm and Brother Khalid against their messenger of God seems to be settling in your heart against the messenger of God, since you want to emulate both of them so much. But you, brother, still got the opportunity to cleanse your heart. So now put that in your book. Muslims, let's stop coddling these people. Let's stop coddling these people. If you are friends and lovers of these people who publicly disrespect the minister, how can we say we are followers of Farrakhan? Yeah, I said I'm gonna risk it all today. But I must say this time around, I'm seeing the Muslims giving these people the business. I am. Making them tap out. In this critical hour, we, the Muslims, must move on people like a disturbed hornet's nest when they get out of pocket with the messenger of God. Not physically, intellectually. We argue in the best of manners, but we swarm them and exhaust them, not allowing them even to get back to their corner to get a breather, because they got us coming from everywhere. The only option is to tap out. We are fighting for Islam. We are fighting for the messenger of God today. The Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, and we will surely win. All praises belongs to Allah. And all of that is why we must give a strong show of support, encouragement, and protection of our beloved sister, Tamika Mallory. Our sister is showing tremendous strength in the face of a blistering attack. She is so far courageously refusing to capitulate when these Negroes have already capitulated capitulated to the Jews' unreasonable demand to denounce the man that she personally knows to be an exceptional human being. They want to break her, but she said, I am not a slave. That's powerful. That's powerful. And that's precisely when they turned up their attack on Sister Tamika, because the Jews take personal offense to that. They can only tolerate a master-slave relationship with black people, and any compromising of that offends them. This is why Cleveland Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert cursed LeBron James out like a runaway slave when he went to Miami. So when Sister Tamika said, I will not be bullied, they turned up their bullying assault on her. Now, Tamika Mallory did not join the Nation of Islam any more than Dr. Cornel West, who was also on stage at Savior's Day. She didn't don a hijab up on stage or a scarf on her head that may have raised some eyebrows. All this black woman is doing is showing the proper love, respect, and appreciation for the black man whose service, suffering, and sacrifice on behalf of all black people over the last 62 years and value to humanity itself is paralleled by no man, black or white, walking anywhere on earth today other than God himself and his Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's why she called the minister GOAT, the greatest of all time. But because she never declared herself to be a card-carrying member of the Nation of Islam, why would you people call her to answer for what we teach in the Nation of Islam? Slide, please. Look at this silliness. Daniel Greenfield, front page, wants to know, does Women's March leader believe Jews use pot to make black men gay? Why are you asking her that? And does a Women's March leader believe that Jews are using CIA-grown pot to make black men gay? And what's the intersectional angle on combining anti-Semitism with racism and homophobia? Man, you devils are sick. Where'd they get that from? Slide, please. Yeah, the ADL had my big head up there. On September 24th, 2017, I was blessed to speak from this rostrum on the subject, marijuana and the assault on the black man, fact or fiction. The Anti-Defamation League apparently tuned in, and 3 days later, on September 27th, published this notice to their website. Nation of Islam espouses, what's that word? Espouses, they want to say exposes. The Nation of Islam espouses pot plot anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. We are not espousing a conspiracy theory. We are exposing a conspiracy fact. May I read their notice? Listen to what the ADL said. During a September appearance at Mosque Mariam in Chicago, Nation of Islam student minister Wesley Muhammad claimed that Jews and the U.S. government are engaged in a pot plot to emasculate black men and turn them into homosexuals by distributing specially modified versions of marijuana. Well, actually, I never said weed makes you gay. That's what tabloids say and repeat. I could say it, but I haven't. I said something different. Said we feminizes the black man. Well, I go on. Muhammad has been dabbling in this conspiracy theory since 2016. These people have been checking for me since 2016. Okay. And proposed a similar version in a June 2017 interview on Power 105.1's The Breakfast Club, a nationwide syndicated radio show. During his nearly 2-hour-long tirade at the Chicago Mosque, I wonder how they're going to describe this one. Though I have no intentions of going 2 hours, this tirade will be much briefer. During his nearly 2-hour-long tirade at the Chicago Mosque, Muhammad explained that the, quote, pot plot is not the paranoid racial fantasizing of your brother, but the pot plot is the actual scheme of your enemy. He continued, it's the U.S. government and the synagogue of Satan scheme to use manipulated marijuana along with other drugs to demasculinize and feminize the black male in America. That's correct. They quoted me right. Muhammad, but this is the set-off. They revealed their hand and why they keep, you notice, most of the articles about the minister today, they keep raising the pot plot. Slide, please. They say, Muhammad referred to a number of slides identifying the Jews as the main culprits in this scheme against black people. No, I didn't. I referred to one slide, but it shook them so much it was as if I hit them with a barrage of slides. I had only one slide, and I ain't even go there. I dog whistled it. I put it up there, and I ain't even talked to us about who these people are. But they saw that one slide, and they got shook for good reason. They said, the main architects, 3 Gentiles and 3 Jews, and they know precisely who those Jews are. They say, they quote me, while it cannot be said that the pot plot that we are exposing is a strictly Jewish conspiracy, the synagogue of Satan is the key player, along with the U.S. government and its agencies and assets. Before you wise breeders started making devil in your backyards, the devil was producing enhanced weaponized marijuana in the laboratory of the U.S. Chemical Corps in the 1950s and 1960s. You backyard growers, they're still quoting me accurately, you backyard growers weren't the first to enhance THC by crossbreeding. Before you got the idea, the devil was making devil cannabis in the laboratories. Take a good look at these key figures of the pot plot. Some Jews, some Gentiles. And I left it there and I backed up off that. But that shook them. They had been monitoring me, I guess, since 2016, but they ain't say nothing until I put that picture up. They said Muhammad's pot plot hypothesis is just the latest in a long line of NOI conspiracy theories about Jews, including Jews were the architects of the transatlantic slave trade, Jews masterminded the rebirth of the Ku Klux Klan, and Jews in Israel played a role in orchestrating the 9/11 attacks. All right, let's get an ADL a half round of applause. for even taking notice. But why would you Jews ask our sister to answer for this, as if she gave any indication at all that she advocated it? No, Sister Tamika. When they ask you about the pot plot, you send them to us. Tell them. Go talk to them about that. They said it. And when you come, we got an answer for you. A pretty good answer. See, we in the Nation of Islam, we are happy and even anxious to answer for everything that we say. But be clear, we will also force you, Satan, to answer for what you say and for what you do. For example, Rabbi Sharon Brous, you spoke at the Women's March and are now critical of our sister, Tamika Mallory. You want her to take responsibility for what the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan has said at Savior's Day. Okay. Well, Rabbi Brous, why don't you explain to all of us in this so-called Judeo-Christian nation why Jesus is a monkey? Explain that to us, Rabbi Brous. Explain that to those of us who love Jesus. We're listening attentively, in fact. Help us understand why Jesus is a monkey. You say that was not you. That was an Israeli Jew who wrote that on the church, so you should not be expected to take responsibility for what your co-religionists say. Oh, that's interesting. Tamika Mallory is not a co-religionist of Minister Farrakhan. But okay, well, Sister Tamika, if Rabbi Brous comes to you asking you to answer for what Farrakhan has said, ask her this: why, Rabbi Brous, do you desire Jesus to be in hell boiling in excrement? Ask Rabbi Brous that. She can't get out of that like she would try to get out of the graffiti on the church. Because as a rabbi, you know that that disgusting hatred of Jesus is in your Talmud, Rabbi Brous. So following Jewish logic, not only should you as a rabbi denounce the Talmud in its entirety for its hatred, you must also give back your Talmud awards that you received from Jewish Theological Seminary. Come up off them. Get them back. As long as you proudly display your Talmud award on your wall, then you are held responsible for the hate that is in the Talmud, no matter what good might otherwise be in there. Mr. Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO and National Director of the ADL. Black people who love Jesus more emotionally than white people do. We want to know from you, sir, why do you Jews hate Jesus so much? You don't just deny he's the Messiah. That's a theological, chronological argument. Okay, you hate Jesus. Mr. Greenblatt, why do you Jews hate Jesus? The Talmud passages, which were only to be read by Jewish eyes, remind me and us of a passage in the Quran that warns the believers against taking friends from among those who only wish us hardship and ruin. And then the Quran says, hatred has already appeared from their mouths, and what their breasts conceal is greater. the hate that Jews conceal in the Talmud is even greater than what they spew from their mouths with no shame. And I thank my brother, Minister Ishmael, for alerting me to this Quranic passage. The Jews want Sister Tamika to answer for what Minister Farrakhan has said. But you, Mr. Greenblatt, don't want to take responsibility for what your Talmudic sages have said. So, Mr. Richard Cohen, your Southern Poverty Law Center keeps a list of alleged hate groups. You all erroneously got us, the NOI, listed. That's pitiful. But whatever. You certainly must add to that list of hate groups Talmudic Jews. Talmudic Jews better be listed on an update to the list of hate groups in America. All of them. All Jews that believe in the Talmud believe in the most vile declarations of hate. Hate against Jesus, hate against black people, hate against women. And so Talmudic Jews as a group must register as a designated hate group. And only those Talmudic Jews who denounce the whole of their Talmud as a hate-filled libel should be allowed to keep their jobs. Otherwise, employers should fire them all and purge your workspace of such supporters of pure hatred. Get rid of all of them. Don't let them serve food in a cafeteria. That's the Jews' logic when dealing with black people. Sounds illogical, doesn't it? For me to ask you to dismiss all the good of a person and reject that person because I disagree with something from that person. And then I make you answer for what I disagree with from that person. That's ridiculous. But this is exactly the logic that you Jews try to hold black people to. But only Negroes submit to it. And if the logic is good for Negroes, then it's good for Jews too. So when Jews come to you, family, to give you the Farrakhan litmus test, you respond to them by giving them the Talmud litmus test. Give them the Talmud litmus test. Tell them, we won't even begin a discussion on Farrakhan until you first denounce the Talmud and condemn all of the ancient rabbinic sages who have ever shared space on a page of the Talmud from which such vile hatred spews forth. That's what you tell them. Now, speaking of Negroes, shame on you, Congressman Danny Davis. Shame on you, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Shame on you, Congressman Gregory Meeks. Sister Tamika has shown more integrity than all of you combined. Brother National Assistant Minister Ishmael read the letter from the Executive Council. They hated Jesus because he told the truth. They hate Farrakhan only because he's telling an unpleasant truth about them. Representative Barbara Lee said she condemns the minister's alleged anti-Semitic and hateful comments. And Representative Danny Davis said he rejects and opposes the minister's views and remarks on Jews and the Jewish religion. Damn, bruh. After holding the line for so long and defending the man you know to be an outstanding human being, here in one breath you both backtracked and doubled down, all in the same moment of cowardly surrender. Shame on you. But what no one is addressing is, what did the minister say that was untrue? Ain't no one addressing that. So let's see. Slide, please. The minister said the Jews are responsible for turning men into women and women into men, and that we are being chemically programmed against our own nature. Did he say that? Yes, sir. Our dear Sister Tamika, in the statement that she released to News One, said that she believes LGBTQ people are not a creation of man. Well, let us help you with that, beloved. And when they come to you asking about this, send them right back here to us. Man absolutely has been artificially creating both homosexuals and transgenders. And by man, I really mean mankind, the white man, including Jews. Jews have played a disproportionately large and important role in the creation of the black homosexual and the black transgender in particular. Y'all gonna get enough of doubting Farrakhan, I promise you. Before the civil rights agitations, as well as the violent turn-ups of the so-called riots of the 1960s, there were only a handful of recognized black transgender in America. The earliest documented probably being Mary Jones of the 1830s, and including an early famous one, Colette Brown of the 1950s. But today, after the shock of the 1960s, there are 1 million black LGBTQ, 1 million of God's people, of which 218,000 are transgender. Black people are 12% of the U.S. population, but 16% of the transgender population. How does that happen? Slide, please. The watershed moment came in 1965, when the reputed most prestigious medical center in the world, Johns Hopkins University Hospital in Baltimore, became the first American hospital to give sex reassignment or transgender surgery official support, with the covert, quiet establishment of the Gender Identity Clinic, where experimental sex change surgeries were secretly conducted with the guidance of such doctors as John Money. Patients were pumped with feminizing chemicals such as medroxyprogesterone acetate, or what we now call Depo-Provera. I'll come back to that, dear sisters, in a minute. And these chemicals reduce the masculine features of the male body and grow female features such as breasts. And these scientists put and then after pumping the body with these feminizing chemicals, Johns Hopkins University Clinic, the scientists put the patient under the knife to secretly transform him into not a woman, a pseudo-woman, a false woman. The so-called inaugural patient The inaugural patient of this secret experimental sex change program was a black man, Avon Wilson. And after they quietly converted this black man into a pseudo-black woman renamed Phyllis Wilson, they pranced him around all the nightclubs of New York, showing him off. The fact that the inaugural patient of this 1965 sex change program was a black man is not an accident of history or of circumstance, because this transgender surgery had a social agenda. The press referred to this social agenda as, quote, social reform through sex change surgery. Think on that. Social reform through sex change surgery. That means that so-called antisocial behavior and petty criminality, such as the civil disobedience of the civil rights agitators and the rioting of the inner city black males, can be corrected through sex change surgery by chemically and surgically turning men into women or pseudo women. And so there was even an arrangement in some cases where instead of sentencing someone to jail, a judge would sentence them to sex change surgery. This is probably why Johns Hopkins had to get court clearance to operate on Avon Wilson. And remember, it was Johns Hopkins University who in 2015 conducted a $400,000 study of the satisfaction levels of adolescent black boys sodomized by older men for the first time. See what I said? The National Institutes of Health gave Johns Hopkins a grant of $400,000 to study how satisfied adolescent black boys, how satisfied they were with their first sodomy experience from an older man. And what was the purpose of this sodomized an adolescent black boy program? What was the purpose? The point was to help make the black community more accepting of homosexuality. Johns Hopkins has been and continues to be a key institutional player in America's demasculinization of the black man project. You say, well, what does this have to do with the Jews? Slide, please. It's missing. There you go. Thank you. Black Avon Wilson's is said to be the first complete genital surgery on a male to female transsexual in the U.S. And this is considered history-making and a real breakthrough. Credit for this racialized social breakthrough goes to Harry Benjamin. Not only was Avon Wilson his patient that he sent to the Johns Hopkins program, but the secret Johns Hopkins sex change program itself was anchored in the work of this man, Harry Benjamin, known as the father of transsexualism. Harry Benjamin was a Jew, born into a bourgeois German Jewish family in Berlin. His father was Julius Benjamin, and his mother was Bertha Hoffman Benjamin. In 1966, a year after the secret inaugural surgery on Harry Benjamin's black patient, Avon Wilson, Johns Hopkins went public with their program, and Harry Benjamin published his book, the first major American text on transsexualism and transgender. Look at it. The transsexual phenomenon. All the facts about the changing of sex through hormones and surgery. Yes, Jews are changing men into women and women into men. That's not anti-Semitism, it's just a big fat fact. Before I leave this subject and start to land this plane, let me bring this subject up to the synagogue of Satan today. Slide, please. It was scientists of this secret sex-trained surgery program of Johns Hopkins who began experimenting with the drug medroxyprogesterone acetate, or Depo-Provera. This drug, MPA or Depo-Provera, it's a synthetic progestin. Progestin is a mimicker of the female hormone progesterone. Depo-Provera is a synthetic mimicker of progesterone called a progestin. It was Johns Hopkins during this time that began experimenting with Depo-Provera as a chemical feminizer in order to control the type of antisocial behavior and so-called impulsive aggression allegedly on display during the riots. Their experimentation with this drug during the 1960s helped make Depo-Provera an important component today of transgender or cross-gender hormone therapy. It helps induce breast development in males and depletes testosterone. But there's something else, dear sisters. There is a definite reason the Depo shot is marketed to poor inner-city black women, who account for 80% of the users of the Depo shot, rather than suburban white women. White women don't take the Depo shot. Inner city black women were and are specifically targeted for the Depo shot. It is a very dangerous drug, putting its user at high risk of both sterility as well as breast cancer. But there's more. Look at what can happen to your baby while your baby is in your womb or is feeding from your breast. John Money, who participated in the transformation of that black man into a black woman, he's the one that did the initial investigations of what would become Depo-Provera. And he wrote this 1967 report, and look what he reveals about Depo-Provera. 80% of the users of which are black women. Quote, within the past 20 years, synthetic progestins, the synthetic progesterones, Depo-Provera, have sometimes been given to pregnant mothers in the United States to prevent threatened miscarriages. A number of these women have given birth to a partially masculinized genetic female baby. In 1960, 70 recorded cases of fetal masculinization of female infants associated with the oral administration of progestins to their mothers was reviewed. the abnormality of sex differentiation was found to be confined to a partial masculinization of the external genitalia. The external genitalia of the female baby is masculinized, namely an enlarged phallus, which may or may not be associated with varying degrees of fusion with the labioscrotal folds. This drug, Depo-Provera, which, when you lay your burden, before you lay your burden down, sister, and you have your baby, at these clinics, they are forcing you to make a birth control decision. They want to put you right on birth control during pregnancy or immediately after. They want to know now, what birth control you going to use? And they get us on the Depo shot. And if it doesn't have its effect on our baby in the womb, masculinized, produce transgenderism in the womb, when that baby comes out and we put it on our breast, but we are taking birth control, Depo-Provera in particular, our breast milk has been weaponized against our baby. While the Depo shot can cause feminization in males, it can masculinize baby females, and Planned Parenthood is one of the largest distributors of Depo in the U.S. and internationally. And Planned Parenthood is who made it available to the 80% black women who use the shot. And you wonder why? There's an explosion in black transgenderism and even intersex. So, Sister Tamika, don't worry about Planned Parenthood cutting ties with you because you refuse to capitulate and condemn your brother. Planned Parenthood is the devil. Good riddance. Good riddance. But again, what does this have to do with the Jews or the synagogue of Satan? Slide, please. In 2013, it was revealed that for over a decade, the Israeli Ministry of Health was forcibly and without their knowledge injecting thousands of Ethiopian Jews entering Israel, and every 3 months thereafter with the Depo shot. The Israelis lied to the Ethiopians, telling them that they were given a flu shot or its like. This satanic plot caused mass sterilization among the Ethiopian Jewish community, cutting the Ethiopian Jewish population in half in 10 years. Slide, please. But we also know that Depo-Provera can cause gender abnormalities. It is thus no surprise that in 2014, an Ethiopian Israeli LGBT group was founded and boasts about 70 members of a community that numbers 140,000 in a nation of 8 million people. Most or not, if not all of these Ethiopian Jewish LGBTQ are Ethiopians who were born in Israel and whose parents made the journey from Ethiopia to Israel and were thus forced to take the Depo shot. And their parents tell their children that their LGBT is a curse from the white people of Israel, and they are right. The leader of the Israeli LGBT group says There are no words in Amharic, the Ethiopian language. There are no words in Amharic for lesbian or homosexual. The only word is a curse that describes a man who wears woman's clothing. See, the whole culture is righteously against LGBT, but when they went to Israel, those Jews forced the double shot on them, and now from their offspring it spawned black LGBTQ. Tell me that it's not the working of Satan. What say you, Mr. Green Black? Who has the courage to follow Farrakhan? I would like to close. I'd like to close offering a personal testimony, if you don't mind. I was exactly 40 years old when my teacher, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, brought me here to headquarters, going on 6 years ago, to serve as a helper to him and to our nation. Everyone who knows me personally will, I think, attest that in terms of life challenges, difficulties, and experiences, I brought a pretty mature 40 years here to Chicago with me. My father was murdered when I was 11 years old by a white woman, as I was waiting on him to return home to my mother and I. My mother died 2 years later of a medical condition. I had been in and out of foster homes, and after running away, I eventually became for a while, a ward of the state, till I was blessed to be adopted by an aunt I didn't really know at the time, but she turned out to be the greatest blessing from Allah to me in my life, my mother. And yada, yada, yada. See, I learned early that everybody has a story if we would take the time to listen to each other's story, but nothing in my story really prepared me for what I would experience here in the city of Chicago, walking with Farrakhan. But the minister did warn me, though. He did. He said to me, I'm bringing you to Chicago, Brother Dr. Wesley. I'm bringing you to a meat grinder. Word? Man, Farrakhan ain't never lied. This place is a meat grinder. I'm not talking about the mosque. The whole city of Chicago and its culture is a meat grinder. The city politics, meat grinder. The weather, meat grinder. Shoot, the parking ticket administration is a meat grinder. This is an unforgiving place, the city of Chicago. But I remember about a year after I had been here and was just starting to be properly introduced to the Windy City and its hawk, I was blessed to receive a call from the minister. And he said to me, reiterating that he had brought me to a meat grinder, but then he added, and they want to grind you into hamburger. Wait, what? wait, hold up. I don't remember reading that in the job description before accepting the offer. But he didn't leave it there. He said, but I will not allow them to grind you into hamburger. I am here today to bear witness that Farrakhan's word is bond. All praises belong to Allah. You want to know the real interesting thing about that? The meat grinder did not get put on hamburger setting until after he said that. Real talk. The real traumatic events were yet in the future. He saw what was on the horizon for me and my family as a result of my being here as a helper to the messenger of God. He saw attacks coming on me and my family. Some of it I can share, some of it I can't. So when in 2016, my family and I, my wife and daughters, would deliberately run off the road of Lakeshore Drive one night. Our car hitting a shoulder, bouncing high up and then came crashing down. The car was damaged, but there was not a scratch on any of us by Allah's grace. But whoever, praise belongs to Allah. But whoever that was intended to do great harm to my family and I. And when I flew to Phoenix to meet with the minister, he said, they want to get me, meaning him. They want to get me, but they can't. So they try to take out my helpers. But I guess, I don't know, maybe that was just a warning shot. Because not too long ago, an unidentified gas found its way into my home. It nearly incapacitated my wife and I. We were only minutes away from fainting in that house before we grabbed the babies and left the house into the cold. The fire department rep and others could find no evidence of carbon monoxide, even though our alarm went off, or any other chemicals that were checked for. Neither my upstairs nor my downstairs neighbor could confirm that they smelled anything, so it was confined to my home. And then, not a week after that, while I'm in Phoenix with the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan and my wife and children are at home, someone breaks into my car. Okay, that happens. But they ain't take nothing. They ain't take the radio. They ain't take the navigation. Instead of taking something, they left something. They left a stun gun in the passenger seat of my car where my wife usually sits. So when my wife goes out in the morning to take our daughter to school, she encounters the car door ajar and the stun gun there in the passenger seat. My wife called me in Phoenix, and when I shared that with the minister, he said that they are trying to frighten my wife and my children. And he sent me home with guidance for us, and here we are. Here we are, and we good. Because the messenger of God will not allow a meat grinder to make hamburger of any of his helpers if we have courage and faith to follow him. Why am I sharing this? Because I'm asking us, including myself, a question. Who has the courage to follow Farrakhan? Because that ain't about me. That was all about Farrakhan. It takes courage to follow Farrakhan. Courage and faith in Allah that feeds and sustains our courage. And that is among the minister's greatest value to me and my life personally. Because even though I was a Muslim over 20 years before I got to Chicago, even though I was already a defender of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad on a world stage, it is yet the truth that I came to Chicago with a deficit in my Islam, a tear in my spiritual garment. I just got to keep it 100. And what I encountered here in Chicago had the potential to exploit my deficit and that tear to totally shred my religion and destroy my grounding. But the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan has literally stitched me up and is stitching me up. And where I came to Chicago weak, Allah was making me strong through the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. What was that tear? Praise belongs to Allah. What was that tear in my spiritual garment? Well, candidly, it was my lack of surety that Allah, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, intervened in the affairs of us little people. My journey to Islam from atheist to 5%er to FOI. So I didn't come predisposed to personal faith in a power outside of myself. I didn't. I believed and even knew the reality of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, the Lord of all the worlds, but that really was the source of my blind spot. I knew that he was managing the macrocosmic affairs, right? Including the lives of his exalted Christ and his servant, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. Those are divine representatives, so they figure on top of the agenda of the God. But I have to be honest, I didn't see myself as individually being on the radar of the Lord of the world. I didn't. That was my blind, that was my deficiency. So when I got to Chicago and the mayhem started, I thought I could self-God my way through and out of that stuff. But then it became real clear to me that managing this Chicago mayhem is way above my black God pay grade. The Chicago mayhem is way above my black God pay grade. I learned that there are levels to this, and I had to level up. And it is through Allah. It is through Allah. Allah through the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan that is leveling me up in understanding and in my personal faith in God. Because of him, see, he literally is the father of my faith. And this is why I hate you niggas that hate him. I hate you who hate him. I count you mine enemies. I do. The minister said cowardly Negroes are his enemies. Because of him, I can now stand here today and say with conviction that Allah God comes to us individually in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. And when we know that, we have no hesitation going into battle with any and all of the enemies of God, of his Christ, and of his apostle, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. Assalamu alaikum.
All praise is due to Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest. All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. Yes, sir. Brothers. Yes, sir.
Praise belongs to Allah. Thank you, dear family, for your attention and your energy. We just have a simple closing procedure, 3 questions. How many of you are here for your first, second, or third time? May I see your hands? First, second, or third time. Praise belongs to Allah. How many who are here for your first, second, or third time believe that what you heard today is truth and good for black people? May I see your hands? Praise belongs to Allah. How many of you are courageous enough to stand on the truth that you just acknowledged today? May I see your hands? If you're strong enough to stand on the truth that you just acknowledged, well, then that means the answer to this third question is a foregone conclusion. How many of you who know that what you heard is true and good for black people, and you know that you are strong enough and courageous enough to stand on that truth, how many want to stand on that truth today and join the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan? May we see your hands? Praise belongs to Allah. We would like to welcome you to the Nation of Islam. If I can shake your hand, and the Brother Student Minister Ishmael, our National Assistant, I defer to him. If he can shake your hand, or we can shake your hand, or I can shake your hand on behalf of the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. May we have the honor of shaking your hand and welcoming you into the only game in town today, the Nation of Islam. May we. Praise belongs to Allah.
Come on, my brothers and sisters who raised their hand that accepted the truth that was spoken today and want to be a part of the Nation of Islam. Brother Student Minister Wesley Muhammad wants the great honor and privilege of shaking your hand and welcoming you today on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. We thank Allah for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank Allah for the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. All praise is due to Allah. We thank Allah for each and every one of you who are here today. Those viewing via webcast, make sure you go to your local study group or mosque to learn more of the life-giving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. One more time for Student Minister Dr. Wesley Muhammad.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. We thank Student Minister Wesley Muhammad for his presentation today. I want us to know it's not about Minister Farrakhan defending himself. I'm going to say that again. What is there to defend? You don't have to be out here, oh, give them the minister's honorable track record and the good that he is. Hey, wait a minute. The onus is on them. They have to defend themselves against the truth that the minister speaks and that we speak and write. So put it on them. That's why in the words that we lifted from the minister in our open letter, let them come out and defend themselves against the truth. So it isn't about defending Farrakhan. It's about them defending themselves against the record and evidence and facts that was presented today and all of the facts that the minister continues to put out there. So turn it around back on them. Make Satan defend himself to come out and say, I'm not Satan. And my brother is not a devil. And my brother over here is not Satan. No, 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 no. This is the day that they have to come out and defend themselves. So hit your social media and keep putting it out there. I close with this. You remember the movie V for Vendetta? See, the enemy got to see that it's not a single man that you're dealing with. Not today. That's why it's called the Nation of Islam. When you come against one, you come against us all. So like in that movie, you remember when they put the mask on? See? They got to see that that's our brother. So when they look for Farrakhan, everybody responds. Who's Farrakhan? I'm Farrakhan. I'm Farrakhan. I'm Farrakhan. I'm Farrakhan. I'm Farrakhan. You're not going to come in anymore and take one of ours. The Jews don't choose our leaders. The day of white folks picking our leaders is over. We claim Farrakhan. That's our leader, that's our teacher, that's our guide, that's our brother, and that's our friend. May Allah bless us to stand strong and follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. One more time for Student Minister Wesley Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
All praise is due to Allah. Brothers and sisters, as we wrap up today's wonderful program, we're going to ask that you support this great work, this great cause, and this beautiful man among us. As the charity receptacles are coming around, we ask that you give out of what Allah has blessed you with. Whatever you can spare of your finances, we ask that you give. Please don't ever think that whatever is in your pocket is too little. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad took nickels and dimes to help build a nation. So we ask that you give out of what God has blessed you with, and may Allah continue to bless you tenfold. We ask those who are viewing via webcast, you too can donate to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam by clicking that button on your screen that says donate. Did you all enjoy yourselves today? All praise is due to Allah. Well, there's more teaching that happens throughout the week. We want to invite each of you all out throughout our weekly programs and services. On Monday is our men's night, the FOI class. All of you brothers who are here as guests, even if you haven't made a decision yet, come out tomorrow night to learn of the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's our men class at 7:30, as well as at your local study group and mosque all across the United States. And our sisters class, we got a special class for the sisters. It's on what day, sisters? At what time, sisters? 9 a.m. The MGT class, sisters. That class is designed specifically for you. So come on out to that class as well to learn all about yourself. And in between that time, of course, we have our Wednesday night study and our Friday night study group as well. Self-improvement, the basis for community development, is on Friday. And this Wednesday, be it the will of Allah, Brother Jeffrey Muhammad will be delivering a message called Disappointment and Dissatisfaction Precedes Treachery. It's a big topic and a very serious time. So join us here in Chicago and join your local mosque or study group on Wednesdays and Fridays. And inshallah, we will be back here next Sunday for our keynote presenter. I thank Allah for each and every one of you. I pray that you have a wonderful day and a blessed week. At this time, we ask, wherever you are, please stand for prayer. At the conclusion of prayer, we have one local announcement. Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we worship, and Thee alone do we beseech for Thine aid. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom You have bestowed favors. not the path upon whom your wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray after hearing thy teachings. Ameen. May Allah bless you. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum. Just a quick announcement here at Mas Mariam. The MGT and GCC will have dinners available concluding today's message. Carrots, saute